Hello and welcome back to Cars of Glasgow, and today you join me inside the 2020 BMW X2 Sdrive 20i. So this is a 2020 model BMW X2, so if anybody who's unaware, the odd numbers such as your 1, 3, 5, 7 are your more utilitarian BMW SUVs, and your even numbers, your 2, 4 and 6 are kind of like your sporty coupe looking ones or sports activity vehicles, as BMW jargon goes. The X2 is the smallest of these three. The X4 and X6 kind of look like a coupified SUV, whereas this looks more like a tall or slightly taller hatchback. So being a 2020 model, we do get the 6th generation of iDrive, which means it is touchscreen. We've got the little iDrive controller knob, and the iDrive is probably one of the best in the business with regards to infotainment, just getting in and going, and the learning curve on it isn't too steep, unlike something like a Lexus remote touch with a little mouse pad thing. Got nice clear gauges in front of us here. There are analog gauges with a little black panel display down at the bottom there telling you your fuel, etc. And inside the cabin of this car, everything feels very well built, high quality materials throughout the cabin, and really only down below, kind of where your knees are or lower, is where the kind of scratchier plastics appear. But on top of the dash and all the kind of bits you touch every day feel very well built and solid. If not the most premium, because it is an X2, it does feel pretty decent. Out in the road, I'd like the size of this X2. It's not particularly big and it's not particularly SUV feeling. It does have kind of more hatchback vibes in kind of the way it drives. It's not that tall. It's actually lower than the X1 it's based off of. And being Sdrive, it is front wheel drive, so it's not even 4-wheel drive. But you've got plenty of power up front as well. That 2 litre gives you about 189 brake horsepower. I think it's good for 0 to 62 in about 7.7 seconds. And I think from memory we've got So we've got that 2 litre engine up front, which gives you about 207 pound-feet of torque, and we've got about 189 brake horsepower, which means 0 to 60 gets you in about 7.7 seconds. Visibility up front isn't too bad, with the A-pillars being quite lean and kind of thin. You do sit quite low down, kind of makes you feel a little bit more of a dynamic drive in the car. However, the C-pillars are pretty thick, which make it a little bit tough when trying to parallel park. I do like how BMW cars typically are designed for the driver, and this X2 is one of the, which is a good thing, one of those examples basically. But you can hold the steering wheel, everything is easy to touch, angle towards the driver, and it is quite a dynamic driving vehicle. It does feel pretty reasonable out on the road, and for a kind of compact SUV it does feel pretty engaging. So the powertrain, this car uses the power shift with the paddles on the side. I've just been leaving it in drive just because this kind of car isn't really going to reward you for driving dynamics. You might see the camera shaking a little bit. We're on a relatively smooth Scottish Highland road at the moment. However, it is picking up the bumps and undulations even, and this car is just standard sport trim. It's not even the M Sport with the more aggressive steering and suspension setup. It does feel quite firm on the road and everything's shaking. But the turn-in is pretty decent, and it does have a reasonable bit of power. You do feel that front-wheel drive kind of driving dynamic on the car. And we're just about to put some petrol in the car, and it's 186.9 a litre of unleaded, which is fantastic at this day and age. So what's quite interesting about this particular model is it's a pretty fairly basic BMW, and most time the cars on this channel anyway, from what I've driven, spec BMWs, if they're not M Sport models. So this is kind of standard sport trim. So you've got things like your cloth seats, everything's manually adjustable. We've not even got heated seats in this car. We do have dual zone climate control, parking sensors, cruise control, automatic wipers, and a couple of other gadgets like the electric tailgate. So it is quite interesting to get in a lesser spec BMW in 2022 just to see kind of things that you get at the bottom end of the market in the model, never mind a highly spec one. So in conclusion, the pros for this car, I like the driving dynamics of the vehicle. We do have quite a wider range of petrol, diesels and even a plug-in hybrid model as well. The sporty like M35i I think it is, for the kind of sportier M-Lite versions, as well as things as this 20i. There's also the reasonable, the kind of engaging driving dynamics. If you want a car of this size, it's a little bit more engaging, less humdrum. It's got that going for it. It's got a positively quality cabin inside the car. This feels well built and well screwed together. Some cons are going to be that seat pillar that's pretty thick, as I mentioned before, for parking. It's got the last generation BMW interior, which it is an F-Series vehicle, which takes me back to, I think it was an F20. I had the 5-door 1 Series from 2011, and there's quite a lot of kind of plastic and design cues from that car. So in 2022, I had a look at this the BMW configurator before today, and this a new one of these 2022 version, which looks the same, is over £37,000, and that still gets you the cloth seats and things like that. So it's quite an expensive proposition new. I'm sure there'll be finance deals out the wazoo, but that's also a negative. But overall, if you're looking for a compact SUV or SAV, something that can carry you, a partner, possibly 2 young kids, look no further than your BMW X2, and they have been out for a while, I think since 2017. So if you want a used one, there's probably going to be some deals to be had, because it hasn't changed that much design-wise over the last 5 years. So as always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next video. Ciao!